Welcome to the Gals Guide to the Galaxy podcast, where a group of gals gather for you one cool thing around our topic of the month. Is it ancient history? Is it breaking news? Is it safe for work? Well, that's up to each gal. All we know is that...
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
There you go.
Welcome back. I'm Bonnie, and I'm joined by Katie, Leah, Eden, and Claire talking about our one cool suffrage thing. Eden already talked about Frances Harper, and Claire already talked about the Statue of Liberty protest and Matilda Jocelyn Gage. But before we dive back in, let's get to know something random about our gal pals. I want to know, do you vote regularly?
Oh, sorry.
I was excited that you asked this, Bonnie, because I actually got a letter in the mail a couple years ago saying that I was an above average voter, and it felt like an adult report card. I was like,
Did you, frame
I'm
it?
A's.
Never gotten one of those. Look at you. Good job. Did it come with a gold star that, you
wish.
put? Oh my gosh.
Or at least an I voted sticker, like I could
An
wear
extra?
it on a special
Yeah.
day of my choosing. That wasn't election day.
I voted above averagely.
Above averagely. I like it. Okay, that's our next sticker for
All right,
gals.
I'll write it down. I voted above averagely. There you go.
Oh, I need one of those.
I will get on it. I have to write it down, otherwise I will totally forget. I love it. Oh gosh, for me. Okay, so yes, I do vote. I always feel like I forget. This is the last couple of cycles I didn't do like primaries, you know what I mean? Like I just did the every 4 years. I felt like that was the important bit. But the more that I have learned about, especially suffrage and the right to vote, and especially about how the little votes, like who's on the council and who runs the sheriff's department, how that shit really affects my life far more than the presidency. I get my ass to the polls. I'm not a big fan of people, and I'm not a big fan of lines. I love absentee voting. I'm just saying, I did it for the first time, and it's like, it comes to me, I do this little piece of paper, and it's like an SAT, and I send it back. I really like that. So if I could vote more by mail and still have it count, every time. But yes, I vote now a lot more. What about you ladies?
Well, like you, I love voting by mail. And when I voted in the primary, I did get a little sticker that said I voted. And I thought that was really important because I'm running a campaign with the obnoxiously long hashtag where it's vote for Biden so my friend Claire can paint his presidential portrait. So I had to vote in the primary to kick this off as well.
Yes. This is true. Yes. And that's an exceptionally beautiful hashtag.
Yes, it's very long and obnoxious. I love the very specific ones. And so, of course, I vote regularly. And if you make those stickers, let me know. I want one.
There you go. Above averagely.
Yeah.
Oh,
I do vote regularly. I believe that enough Black people and enough women were beaten up and, if not outright killed, jailed,
paid the price.
Whatever.
Yeah.
They paid such a bloody price for my ability to vote that I have always voted.
Yeah.
My dad actually became one of those people that you see at the polls. When you go to your poll and then you have to check in and whatever, and they tell you which, ballot and all that, whatever. He was a poll worker. And so that's really cool. And when I had my son, who's 11 now, he's either accompanied me on all of my votes, times voting, or he's gone with my parents.
Yeah.
To vote.
There you go.
So we are a civic duty family.
And I think the more you go, the more when you're little and you see the process, you're like, oh, this is easy. I'm just going to go do this because it's easy and it's important. So where if it's completely foreign to you, you're just like going, oh my gosh, this is so important.
Totally.
Oh,
Now,
I have to tell you.
I miss the days where you had like the lever and the curtain.
Oh yes.
You know, where you flip the little thingies.
It's like the Wizard of Oz up in there.
Yes, and then you like stomp and the thing opens. I miss those days.
Theatrics. Katie, you were gonna say?
I totally have a story of when taking your children to the poll can go wrong.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Let me know. Yes, what is it?
I took Jonah with me to vote in the last presidential election, and we were waiting in line, and he was hiding behind me, and he was acting really shy and really quiet and weird, and that's not usually him. And we got through the line. I voted. I let him press the red button. That I'm all done. And then we got to the car, and he's a preschooler, right? So I'm driving him to preschool. We're in the car, and he goes, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I said, why were you worried? What was wrong? Because I had asked him before, but he wasn't telling me. And apparently he thought that Donald Trump was going to be at the polling place. And he is scared and horrified of Donald Trump.
Fair.
Yeah.
Like you have to point to the person you're voting in person.
Oh
I guess I didn't explain voting well enough.
Like it's a lineup. That's the man I don't like.
Like, I don't know, maybe I need to break it down more, because for a while too he was convinced Donald Trump was going to call me on the phone about different things, and I was like, no, he's not.
Ooh, is that why voter turnout is bad? People are afraid he might be there.
Oh my God, hysterical.
That's good. Yeah.
So, guys, preview the process with children.
Yes. This is true.
Yeah.
The more you know. That's my little rainbow right there.
The little rainbow. The more you know.
Wow. That's good. Bonnie, what about you, darling?
Yeah, I went with my parents. I have no idea if they always took me, but at least like the few before I turned 18, I remember going with them, and even my first couple of times voting, Mom went with me until she found out the one year I was maybe gonna vote for Obama. She did not want to go with me.
But I believe in hope. But did she think not going with you was like really the punishment that would change her mind?
Weird. It was weird.
Oh no.
But yeah, and then before that, yeah, I'd always voted just every 4 years in the presidential election until 2016, and since then I have voted in every primary,
everything, yeah,
everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really woke us up, didn't it? And went, you know what? This shit matters. Oh, crap.
And I like to do, we're lucky here in Indiana, we can do early voting. So I usually go a few days before Election Day and do that.
Yep. Exactly. I do like the early voting as well, if I can't get it on paper. Fantastic. Well, what is your one cool thing, darling?
My one cool thing, I've called it Suffrage on the Move.
I like it. Are there trains?
There are trains. Planes, trains, and automobiles.
I love it. Yes.
And I tried to put them kind of in order of year-ish. There's some things that overlap, and I have paper this time.
You have paper? Almost.
Paper. I usually just read off my phone, but I was like, no, I can't do the Zoom and the...
It's gotten real, folks. She means it this time.
Nope. So, let's see. So
she's like, how does paper work? Wait a second.
Yeah, well, no, it's just everything just kind of all links together and stuff. So for my first thing that makes sense, you got to know about the next thing. It's a mess. So, Alice Paul and her buddies were going to arrange a parade in Washington, D.C. in 1913.
Sweet.
A woman that they called General Rosalie Jones heard about it. She lived in New York, And she decided she was going to lead a group of women to march down to Washington, D.C. on foot to join the parade. But prior to this, she had led a troop of suffragists that they called pilgrims from New York City to Albany, New York. They walked on foot in order to petition the governor for suffrage. It's 150 miles in December. It took them 13 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is like, it's December in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Snow.
That's
This
real.
is in those teeny tiny, I'm sure not comfortable boots that they wore back then, and dresses.
No.
Yeah.
That's going to be a hard pass for me. Sorry.
Yes. But
Very
yeah, she
sorry.
made a
I suck.
few months later, she did that second trip from New York to Washington, D.C. This time it was 260 miles. They set out on February 12th.
Still
I
cold.
put 1013. No, it didn't take them 900 years. 1913. The first day they started out with 200 people. By the end of the first day, it dropped down to 16.
Oh my God. They're like, I'm out.
They're
I'm
like,
done.
it's February, y'all.
I didn't realize that this would be more than a couple hours. I'm going to bail.
Yeah.
And just like that,
but
and Katie bails. No, I'm just kidding. Her does.
They had a wagon filled with leaflets or flyers that they would pass out to people as they walked by. They averaged 20 miles a day, and they had like stones and ice thrown at them.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insult to injury. I mean, you're already doing something that's seriously difficult.
Yes.
How can you make it worse? I know. Let's throw ice and stones at them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But that was all so they could make it to the big parade. Alice Paul, Lucy Burns, and the National Women's Party. Well, I don't think it was the National Women's Party at that point.
Okay.
But yeah, it would have been the association before they split off with Kat there. They had arranged a giant parade because they wanted to do a parade. They had special train routes put in place so that women could come and watch or join the parade. Mm-hmm. And I keep thinking about we had the Women's March and we had all the airplanes filled with the women in the pink hats. So I imagine trains filled with suffragists on their way.
Yes.
So this march, they had scheduled it to be on March 3rd, the day before the presidential inauguration in 1913, because they wanted to make sure it was like a big audience and to kind of jab at the president there.
Oh, well, that history repeated itself again, didn't it? Lovely.
In February, Ida B. Wells of Chicago contacted Alice Paul about marching in the parade. Mm-hmm. And then, and she was a Quaker. She believes that, all people are equal. Mm-hmm. But some other white ladies in D.C. so that was not acceptable. And that other white women, especially from the South, would not march if Black women were allowed to march, even if it was segregated. So she kind of dropped it. She was like, it's gonna cause some issues.
Oh no.
Even though African American had marched in the New York parades. Yeah.
Is that the one where they said it's okay as long as you're in the back of the parade? And she went, okay. And then when she saw her delegation, she just joined it? Is that one? The one in the... Oh, okay. Sorry.
Something like that.
Sorry. Yeah.
Something like that. But they expected about 2,500 marchers. Twice that many showed up.
Nice.
In that morning, the delegation from Illinois decided to only allow white women to march. So Ida B. Wells just kind of disappeared for a bit. She was nowhere to be found. They had 24 horse-drawn floats, 9 bands, thousands of marchers, and they were all led by Inez Milholland, a 26-year-old attorney that was deemed the most beautiful suffragist by the
by
the
herself.
press.
I mean, by the press. Yeah.
Yes.
She had a giant white horse.
Yeah, she was a giant white horse. She had a little tiara that had a little star. She was supposed to be an allegory of something. I can't quite remember. It was like victory or progress or something.
Sure.
Because there was all kinds of those themes throughout the parade, and they were intended to, when they got to the end, they were going to do kind of like a little pageant show, but they didn't get there.
This is starting to sound like the Miss America pageant. And I'm just
Something.
There were sashes, right?
Oh my gosh. What came first? I mean, like at this point, like is the suffrage parade is now, let's just make that into a pageant, everybody. Let's have it be a beauty contest. We'll have some banners and some fashion. Let's add swimsuits. You know what I mean? That's what was missing in the parades before. Right.
So right behind Inez, there was a giant banner that said, "We demand an amendment to the United States Constitution enfranchising women of this country." This is a time women did not make demands. So they were not asking nicely.
Them ladies with them banners.
Demanding.
Terrifying.
They marched in groups by like their states, but they also marched in groups of professionals like librarians, teachers, college graduates, nurses. About halfway through the route, Ida B. Wells just kind of snuck in there and joined the march.
I like it. La 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 la, never mind me, I'm just suddenly in the parade.
There were all kinds of, I keep finding more and more women that were at that march. Helen Keller was at the march.
Oh, nice.
Jeanette Rankin.
Oh,
Ida B. Wells.
Congresswoman.
Yeah. I was thinking there was someone else. It may have been Annie Jump Cannon. I know she was a suffragist.
Nice.
Oh, that makes sense. She was kind of in the area. She was Harvard Computers at that time. You know, not too far away.
I keep finding more and more women that were there that were not necessarily like suffrage leaders. That just I was like, oh, they're at the parade.
Yeah. Oh, neat.
But yeah, they didn't get to finish their parade because many men were there for the inauguration the day before. They got there early. They got nothing to do all day. They're drinking. They start yelling and spitting at these women. Tell them to go home and make them a sandwich.
Wow.
They were throwing objects. They were throwing their lit cigarettes, rocks, anything they could find at them. And the police were there. They pretty much did nothing.
Not surprised. I see nothing.
So, yeah.
Woo!
So the next day, they got a whole bunch of press coverage, and it was kind of like, how dare the police and the government allow women to be treated in such a horrible manner? Kind of press coverage.
No! Oh no! That can't
while
go
the women were pretty upset with how it went, they were like pretty excited about the press coverage, and it lasted for a long time. Okay,
cool. There you go. I was thinking that like they came back the next day and then the police are like, we're not having this. And then
no, the next day was that day the president was getting off the train and he expected a huge crowd of people there to greet him, and he was kind of like, where is everybody?
Oh, that sounds
like,
familiar.
Oh, that's the suffrage parade.
History.
So that's like the big one. But, in New York, they had 3 separate parades, all organized by Harriet Stanton Blanche, which is the daughter of Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Started in 1913. The 1915 parade down Fifth Avenue had 25,000 people participating.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And then I found that there was a march in Boston in 1915 where they took a Liberty Bell across the state.
They just like checked it out from the library or something. And then I'm just gonna borrow this Liberty Bell for a moment.
They said it was a Liberty Bell.
Oh,
I don't think it was the Liberty Bell. And I'm just like, is that where I got the crack?
I know, right?
So that's all the on foot. We move to the automobile section.
Automobiles. Sweet.
So automobiles are new.
Yeah.
At this time, they're the newfangled thing. The one that I had heard about before was a journey from California and to like New York and DC. They kind of went across country and stopped at different places. They started at a national exhibition in San Francisco in September 16th, 1915, and left around midnight with fireworks.
Ooh.
This is the time, there's new cars, so there's no highways.
Right.
Yeah.
There's pretty much just dirt roads because they're used to horse-drawn carriages.
No gas stations.
They're crossing the desert. Yeah. No gas stations. No streetlights.
Yeah.
No, if your car breaks down, mechanics.
There's no AAA?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's a crazy time to be taking a cross-country road trip.
Right.
But Frances, oh goodness, I'm horrible with names. Frances Joloffe?
Yeah.
42 of Washington State. She was a drama critic. Rode with Sarah Bartfield. 33, she was a poet from Oregon. Were driven in a car by two Swedish women who owned the car, one of which talked nonstop, causing one of the women to leave halfway.
It sounds like me.
The Swedish women were Maria Kindberg, and she drove, and oh goodness, Einsborg Lindstedt was the machinist.
I'm like 58% Swedish, so I represent that remark.
But they carried with them a petition scroll, which included over, by the end, 500,000 signatures for suffrage and was 18,000 feet long.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh. Wow.
Damn.
They drove over 5,000 miles.
How long was the trip, too?
They left in September. I don't know when they arrived.
Gotcha.
But months, I'm sure.
Right, yeah. Because
they made, just driving, and they're on a good day, they got 20 miles.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah. And then, they had scheduled stops, so they stopped in
exactly.
talk.
And that's how you would get all those signatures, too, because you would come into town and, you'd have a big assembly, and then you could get a lot of signatures in one spot and then move on. And neat. Oh,
I remember hearing about this, Bonnie, and they said their average speed was 25 miles an hour. And I thought, can you imagine driving from California to New York at 20, like school zone speed?
No.
And I said that to Josh here, and he's like, well, it's a lot faster than a horse. And I was like, I guess compared to what they're used to, but just for me, I'm like,
oh, no.
Did you tell him that it also had a talkative Swede?
Yes. He'd be out. He'd be back to the horse and buggy.
Be like, what kind of loud transportation you got?
Right.
Neil Richardson and Alice Burke also took a road trip with their cat Saxon.
Yes.
On a 5-month road trip for suffrage in 1916.
Ooh.
They're kitty.
Look
I didn't see any
kitty,
pictures
kitty.
of the cat.
Jellyfish is a relative of yours.
So our our lady Rosalie Jones, the one that led the foot march, also did a plane trip.
Oh.
She they said tied down, so I'm picturing her tied to like the wing. I'm not really sure if they really tied her down, but that's the thing that I read, to tied down in a biplane, because this is 1913. So kind of Wright brothers plane.
Right.
She was somehow in be like an open air plane.
Right, yeah.
Either way, to just drop suffrage leaflets out of the sky and gave a speech when she landed.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Wow, hon. Oh, my God.
And
Let's just strap her to the side of a plane and see what happens.
Yeah, but they said tied down. Like, I was like, what?
You know,
Where did they tie her? Like, I don't know. Lucy Burns, which is Alice Paul's BFF, rode in a plane with a suffrage banner that broke away in the strong winds and dropped leaflets in 1916 in Seattle.
Right. See, that's a dangerous lady with a banner right there. When the banner breaks off a plane and goes colliding who knows where. That's when they're actually dangerous.
Mrs. John Blair and pilot Lita Richburg Hornsby, a lady pilot, dropped flyers on President Wilson while he was aboard his presidential yacht in 1916 at a ceremony at the Statue of Liberty.
Interesting. Wait a second. I like how it comes together.
So now we get on to trains.
Trains.
Just in general, that was like the big mode of transportation for all these suffrage associations. We're sending women everywhere by train to go give talks and lectures. Like, that's how you traveled back in the day, was train. There was a special suffrage train from the West that arrived in Washington, D.C. in May of 1916. And after they got out of the train, they formed a car procession to the Capitol to petition Congress for suffrage. The Senate recessed to meet with the ladies.
Ooh.
I was like, oh, wow.
Very nice.
So on one of these trips where they sent women out, Inez Milholland collapsed after giving a speech on the campaign trail in California, her last public words being, "Mr. President, how long must women wait for liberty?"
Ah, that's
she
your
was one of the ladies.
Pin too that
Yes.
you have. Ah, look at that.
So the suffrage ladies, that was like their martyr for a long time. They had a funeral for her in Washington, D.C., and they plagued the president with banners with those words on them that they would the silent sentinels in front of the White House.
Ooh, this lady died for suffrage. She had a horse.
She did. And she was only, I think, 30.
Oh,
but she didn't die of the trip. She had pernicious anemia.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
It's like a blood thing.
Gotcha.
But they were thinking that maybe like just the stress of all the traveling like did not help.
Probably didn't help, yeah.
Yes. Starting in Washington, D.C., 26 women who had been in prison for protesting suffrage, like the Silent Sentinels, boarded a train and spoke, often wearing their prison uniforms. So they would go out and do these speeches. They'd wear their uniforms from the Algonquin workhouse to just be like, look, I've been in prison for this. Got no business being in prison for this.
Right, exactly. See?
But yeah, apparently I wrote down some other notes of some other ladies to look up at the end here.
You're like, this is some more research.
I made a note at the end here though, like after I was watching PBS just had an American Experience, The Vote, come out. So that's what I was like I love that car trip. But as I was listening to this, I was reminded about how, Elizabeth Cady Stanton is 32 during the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848.
Right.
She meets Susan B. Anthony a short time after that. She's also in her 30s. Alice Paul, when she starts, she's, I think, her mid-20s. I think by the parade or by the 20th Amendment, she's like 30. Lucy Burns in her 30s. A lot of these women, it's just like their whole lives. It's not too late, ladies.
Right, exactly.
Go out, change the world.
Exactly.
It's 30s. I'm in my
30s. It seems to be close to the time where it's like I'm trying to figure out who I am, and then in the 30s it's kind of like I'm gonna start doing some stuff.
Yeah, our existential crises become productive in our 30s, right?
Exactly. It's about time to get some action, and then 40s is like, cool, now I've had it with some of you bitches, so I'm just gonna like focus on the things I care about. And then from what I hear, because I'm 43, the 50s are just the fuck it 50s, where you just do what you want, when you want. It don't matter anymore. Bra off, day off every single day. And I'm like, I can't wait. So,
Oh my goodness.
it sounds like a great pattern. Yeah. Just women getting stuff done in their 30s. That seems, it's like, yes. If it's 40s, 50s, 70s, I don't care. Get it done. I love it.
Just get it done.
Exactly. Nothing's stopping you, really. I mean, except maybe physics.
Right.
Gravity, physics, but you know, the
Right. Whatevs.
Exactly. And then, do you have anything about bicycles, Bonnie, in your...
So I didn't even think about
All
bicycles. I know Susan B. Anthony was a big proponent of the bicycle and thought that it would lead to women's independence.
Yes, that's all I knew as well.
Being
That's right,
independent women. And I don't remember if they wore I know bloomers were a thing back then. I don't know if those were the same pants that they would wear during the bicycle rides.
A lot of times, yeah.
Susan wore bloomers for a bit when she would give speeches, but she stopped wearing them because every time she went to make a speech, all they would talk about was her bloomers. So she stopped wearing them.
Yeah. They wouldn't focus on her message. They just focus on her clothes. And she's like, fuck this.
That's lame.
Exactly. I mean, she was already a very pretty woman.
That woman,
she's a whore to look at. I will just say it.
I think she's just really bad at taking pictures. Every single picture I see of her, like the only good picture
if I made a horror movie
of her is not a
Susan
picture, it's like a lithograph or something, like the one that's on the coin.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's a lithograph and not a picture. Like,
right.
There's one of her with Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and they're a bit younger, and it looks like her eyes are rolled back in her head.
Yeah.
Well,
she looks like she's dead already.
Yeah, were those on tintype? I don't know if you've ever had like tintype photography done. Yeah, either there has to be an insanely bright light, or you have to hold. I don't know. I'm not very.
Maybe she moved.
Yeah. What's the terminology for tintype photogenic? Whatever it is.
Right. Exactly.
I'm not
She's
that.
not tinogenic.
Tinogenic. Yeah, I'm not tinogenic. I understand, but
there's so many of like all throughout her life. Like I keep finding all these photos, and I'm like.
Not a
what
good one.
is wrong? Like, not a single good one.
I always have to wonder about the photographer.
Sure.
Because if the photographer was a man,
yeah,
and he was not liking, he was disagreeing.
Oh yeah.
I kind of wonder if
they made her look
pictures
bad.
Were sabotage.
Right.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Also, could be she was not a looker.
And there's that.
The cartoons that were made, or the illustrations, like the court illustrations, were made of these suffragists to look very unflattering on purpose.
Yeah.
I remember reading about Matilda Gage talking about how she was just insulted, and she was complaining about this crazy hat they put on her, and she was just completely baffled by how they drew her.
Right.
Wow.
Image is everything. But yeah.
But yeah, her buddy Elizabeth Cady Stanton didn't seem to have that problem.
No.
Like, there's photos of her everywhere.
Exactly. She looks stern and in charge and be like, look at my crazy friend. Sorry, I love them both.
I think there's even a picture of her when she's young and still teaching before she even went into suffrage stuff. And even that.
She looks 82 in that picture.
I think some of it maybe she might have had deep set eyes. I think may have like messed with it or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep. Just saying, she never gave me nightmares all the time.
Well, that wraps it up for this week. Join us next week as our next gal pal shares her one cool suffrage thing as Gal's Guide to the Podcast continues. Thanks for listening.
For show notes, links, and images from this week's show, visit galsguide.org. Want exclusive stuff like deleted bits and major bloopers? Become a Gals Guide patron today. Thanks for listening.